Welcome to RJR Stories, where we read Reddit stories. I'm your host, Ron, and I'm currently alone today in this video. And let's get into your scheduled program. r/entitledparents. Swedish Hoe Hunter. Am I the jerk? Oh boy. Here we go, good people of Reddit. As an avid stalker and not really a poster, and having used Reddit a few years ago, I figured I can give this go and see if perhaps I am the jerk in this situation. A little bit of backstory. My wife, 34 female, and I myself, 31 male, had our first child at the end of 2024. An early and complicated birth that involved my wife having to go through an emergency C-section at 33 weeks. Thankfully, our little guy is all good now, caught up and developmentally. And honestly, I just hope the world is kind to him. I grew up in an upper middle slash lower upper class family in Spain. My parents, only one of them, working worked very hard to send me to private school. We lived lavishly slash comfortably the majority of the time, but I noticed often in schools and with my parents was a bit of an imposter syndrome, especially with my mother, who's looking back, I think is the major catalyst to this entire situation. In 2020, my parents, after mine and now my wife's engagement, decided to offer me a handsome sum of money, around 40K in euro, to buy an apartment in the city where we live. We found a fixer-upper and thought the apartment in my name, not in my wife's name, in February of 2022. And the renovations were done by May, and we moved in. The mortgage was considerably lower than our prior rent payment, even if the apartment was in worse area and was smaller, and we had strongly appreciated the help from our parents, who had stipulated that even if the apartment was in my name, it's still their apartment, which I found fair enough. I had been quite fiscally irresponsible prior to this and needed a chance to reset my finances anyway. My father has always been the figurehead in our family, and he has been really up and really down with his money for as long as I've been alive. Up enough to be able to pay for private chemotherapy for me in the US, low enough to have him move into my grandparents' storage room and everything in between. In the 2022, they were flying high after losing almost all their money in the late 90s to '08, and finally again in like 2012. However, and quite sadly, his business partner died in 2023. The business was set up badly and it collapsed in no time at all, leaving my mother and father in a really tough spot financially. Now to more relevant details. In 2023, the company collapsed. They sold assets up to September of 2023 to stay afloat. In September of 2023, I spoke to my parents about their financial, and they brought up again that they had very low money. So I offered them to take a loan in my name that I could pay off. They could pay me to pay back for. They said in 3 months this was a lie. I told them I understood and told them that they could just take over the monthly payments, and they agreed to do so soon. At the time, I started my new job, my salary dropped, and we got news that we were going to have a child. Way too much at once. And my dear father called me in May of 2024, shortly after announcing the pregnancy, to say that he feels as though I should off pay for their loan around 30K with a monthly payment as well as the mortgage, which again I had zero issues doing since I we lived there and just wanted to create the separation. He threatened me and told me he would somehow kick me out of my own apartment. I argued and said that was ridiculous, and I was already struggling financially, and this argument took over about a month and was hard to deal with. But eventually, I won and told him I would pay it, but that he would owe me once we sold the apartment. During the rest of 2024, I took yet another loan to help them out. Once again, same promise, same broken promise, same agreements, but but they are my parents. I love them, and I don't want them to be homeless either. Yes, he's trying to work at this point, but living away above their means and having very high paid but very unstable income. They were often left with zero cushion, leaving me to help, sometimes just a couple thousand euros, sometimes tens of thousands. In the late 2024, luckily I got my current job, which is extremely high and well paid, and has put me in a very lucky and grateful position that I can continue to support both my wife and my child and help my parents. In 2025, the same thing happened again. In April, then in August, two more loans in my name in a year. To add a point here, my mother acted like a complete tool to my wife over the summer, and I strongly regret not reacting more protective than I did. And this is something I have to deal with for the rest of my life. I started arguing with my parents that if they don't take over the payments very soon, I would force to sell the apartment. All in all, of their loans are up to about 70K. The mortgage is about 50. The money owed to me now personally, since I use some of the loan to pay back myself, about 10K, taxes 26K, seller's fee 3%, meaning they would end up within about 45K tax free, which, considering everything, I thought they would be happy. But no, since September/October of 2025, I've been sworn at, told that since they have this massive deal coming, I won't get any now. I don't really care. Offered to make me the trustee of this deal, which I denied, even though they argued my son wouldn't get any of it that happened. told I'm ungrateful, was invited from Christmas, and I attempted to be manipulated by both my mother and father and grandmother on my mother's side by saying I'm in the wrong. That not they are now want a full list of all payments, cost, and so on, so forth, before they will accept my calculations, which hard enough as I have had to considerations to even manage the payments that we're supposed to do. My father's sister died over Christmas, which of course sad, but I have fallen out with her in 20 years ago. My mother of 25 years ago and my father 15 years ago. Yeah, it's was sad, but she was a cunt to all of us either way. I have been to therapy and have gotten support. We all have moved on and they moved out, and the apartment almost done being sold. We have placed a deposit on our new build, and I'm trying desperately to move on and just leave this behind. But I just keep wondering, am I the jerk? If I can help with details, let me know names, place, etc. Will be anonymous. OP, I don't think you're the jerk. You're trying to do your best to help and support your families, and even though they're being ungrateful and living more what they could afford instead of them trying to pay back you the loan, I think you should force them to pay you the loan first of all, and then after they pay you off the loan, just cut them off. You don't need them. What they've been doing to you? Just making you pay a loan for them and try to keep them afloat, even though they're not appreciating you, and trying to gaslight you and all that stuff. And that's my advice to you. R slash entitled parents, Nightwing, 1107. Parents want a control of my apartment security camera. Edit. The account was deleted, and now I have full control of my security again. I'm legally blind and have a guide dog. I posted screenshots to my profile, so I am 24 male, just got a visit from my parents, 41 female, and a 42 male. They came to visit me yesterday, which I thought it was going to be a nice time to get some food. But not only did they bring their 1 month old puppy with them on a 2 hour car ride, forcing me to leave my service dog at home, they also set up a camera, which they tried to charge me for, by the way. I mentioned that I was planning on getting a camera because of a package thieves. They said they were going to look around for one. They first tried asking me if I had money for the camera, but when I said I had no money, they brought it anyway, and I told me to reimburse them. When they arrived, they set up the camera and we went to go and eat. What I didn't realize that they made a account on my behalf and could see through my cameras as well. I changed some settings of my own privacy later. Today and a few minutes ago, my mom called me to ask about the changes and to change them back herself. She made up BS excuse about she changed them back, then told me if I wasn't gonna use it correctly to stop wasting her money. I'm sorry for formatting on a mobile. but if I miss anything, tell me. I'm doing my best. I figured out to disconnect the camera from the account. My parents made, but I'm not sure if that would alert them. It turns out they were alerted and I got a message about it 5 in the morning. OP, I think your parents are taking advantage of your situation and they shouldn't be really keeping a close eye on you because you're not a kid anymore. You're 24 and you should put um a line between okays and don'ts, especially with your parents are breaking your boundaries and I'm assuming this isn't probably the first time that they're um pushing your boundaries and you know uh you should wait until you get your own camera when you have the chance, or and if they come back just give them back because it's not your property and quote unquote you're not a kid in their values, I mean in your mind, you know.